In this video, I'm just going to give you a quick garden tour and show you the kinds of flowers and edibles that we grow on a 600 square metre block. Now we tend to plant up against the fence line most of our fruiting trees because it allows us to maximise the space that we have. So to start us off here along this fence line, we've got an Acerola Cherry which fruits a couple of times a year with a yellow passion fruit over the top. Next to it we have a Chumma just here, black Chumma. Next to the black Chumma we have ourselves a pomelo, which is fruiting at the moment. It takes ages for the fruit on the pomelo. Another black Chumma, followed by a ruby grapefruit. Another black Chumma on the end. And at the back here we have a couple of mulberry trees. So this little garden bed on the end here houses our compost, mulberries, and just tucked away in this little bush just here is our native beehive. Now this garden here used to be fairly bare. There were a couple of cuttings that we took of Salvias, a couple of different varieties of Salvias that took over, that covered the ground to keep the moisture in, and as they break down they continue to improve the soil. So we've got a little bit of pineapple sage just here. There is a white flowered salvia just in behind it. On this side we've got some chrysanthemums at the front. We've got another white salvia at the back. Some Mexican sage just in the middle there. Mexican sage is that guy there with the narrow leaves, and some catmint down in front, and a little bit of lavender tucked in there. Now we propagate a little bit on the side here and a little bit out the back as well. So that is the permanent garden out the front. And then we get to the annuals garden. So this one here, this is all grown up from seed, mostly flowering plants, a few edibles in here as well. So these first two rows are our main flowering crop at this time of year. And our ones over to this side have just started to die back with the sunflowers on the edge. So I'll just walk you through. So most of these are cut flowers. Starting on this side, just on the edge here, we've got Christmas bush, and salt bush is the one just in behind there in pots. In terms of flowers, we've got phlox just down the front here, some cosmos, the purple ones, more phlox down the front, a couple of different varieties of cosmos. They come in a range of colours. Then we've got marigolds down the front edge here, and they're companion planted up against our dahlias. Now these dahlias will possibly stay in. They grow from tubers and seed, so these are a mix of tuber and seed. These are my wife's favourites, so there are truckloads of these going at the moment. And so they're our summer and autumn crop. So just in front, a little bit of celosia. This is the second row here. These black-eyed Susans on the corner that flower like crazy. In here we have chocolate lace flower, really interesting cut flower. Snapdragons have flowered 3 times. I think they're in their 3rd flush. These guys are rad. These are pin cushions. Look super funky in a bunch of flowers. And then that's where the dahlias continue. And then these are the 2 rows that are done and have just been chopped back. So a little bit of rocket there. There's a bunch more celosia, and then the sunflowers at the end, which are kind of in a spot for the chooks to be eating. So that's the reason they're still going there. A few things in pots around the edges. It's pretty well the front yard. I'll show you a couple of other spots and then move you around the back. This is our other junky little garden at the front, but it's got a couple of edibles in it. So that's a Brazilian cherry, beautiful leaves, pretty awful tasting fruit, and they shape up reasonably well. So we're just shaping them into hedging plants at the moment. There's another one on the corner here, and then up along the side we've got another Acerola Cherry, which is hedging quite well as a screen for the bins. And then just in front, a little bit of a rose garden, and then this section along here is kind of the uncharted territory. And the last little part we'll plant out. So here, just break down these a little bit more. These are societal garlic. The root system on plants like this are brilliant as a bordering plant because they form a nice tightly knit root system that stops grasses creeping in. So when you plant garlic or chives around the edge of a garden, their root system is super handy as a border. Out the front here as well, the last one out the front, overhanging is this Panama Berry. Fruits all year round pretty much, well, 9 months of the year. You get these little tiny red sweet cherries on them. You get a mass in warmer weather that slows down over winter, gets fairly big. I think it grows to about 7 meters, and yeah, fairly tasty berries. But that's the front yard. Now I'll just take you around the back and the side of the house. So just a quick view of the side of the house here. Along the fence line, this is flowering, or a flowering plant. This is star jasmine. Beautiful border around the edge, beautiful screen. It got pruned back a little bit heavier than it needed to, but it kind of gives you the smell of spring when it gets up and flowering. A little water tank along the side here. Next to the water tank, we've got ourselves a little tiny banana tree. And then along the side here we have another edible screen just to block out the view to the neighbours, and that is a lily pilly. So only in for a year or so, but getting quite nice. And then I'll take you along the back fence line. Along the back fence line here we have inner retaining wall. At the back there, lemon myrtle right at the back. So lemon myrtle's that one at the back there. Good in teas, but not really useful in a hedge this size because they are a large rainforest tree once they get going. Some lavender just in front of that, and then a bunch of salvias. I highly recommend salvias because they flower all year round pretty well. They're fairly low maintenance, and they're a beautiful bush. Down the front here we've got some asparagus. You can see we've got a shoot coming up from the crown in here. Now asparagus will last you about 20 years once they establish themselves. They have a nice deep root system bringing up nutrients from down below. You've got to have room for the ferns because they take up a little bit of space, and you need them to start to take off to send that energy to the crown to produce your asparagus. But yeah, asparagus pretty handy. In behind we've got some Siren Spinach. This guy's been around for years. We've never looked after it. It's kind of a living mulch. Just sprawls everywhere. In here we've got a heritage raspberry. Any cane plants, you need to make sure you've got a border around. These ones started a lot further down in that direction. Over many years have moved up to here. And behind, with stringer I think it is. Not 100% sure on that one. Here we've got our lemon tree, Eureka lemon. Plenty of lemons on this guy, up against the fence line in a really tight spot, but does fruit quite well and produce a buttload of lemons for us. In beside it we've got a couple little apple trees, or tropical apples. We had an Anna and a Dorset. One of them died off unfortunately, but there are still 2 in there. A little bit of wormwood. That's pretty well the back fence line. I'll show you a couple of other spots out the back here. Here we've got another little patch with a couple of edibles in it. In terms of alternative greens, this guy here is called sambung. Gets quite large, requires very little care. Highly nutritious, good in soups and stews. If you're going to eat the leaves of it fresh, you'd want to eat young leaves. Down in front we've got some perennial basil. This guy here flowers like crazy. The native bees love this guy as well. Grows like crazy as well, super easy to propagate. Otherwise in this garden, a little bit of rosemary in the corner. Other edibles out the back here. There's rosemary in the pot. There we are, just there. And there's some societal garlic in there as well. We'll just take you around to the chooks. And yeah, so we've made it to the chicken coop. We've got a couple of Isa Browns, and I can't remember what the third one's called. At the back there. I'll pop the name up on the screen as I publish the video. But chooks, use a couple of eggs a day. We've got ourselves some canna and some lemongrass. The lemongrass and lavender are used to go in with the bedding with the chooks. It allegedly wards off pests like mites. We'll see how that goes. In here we've got little orange, barely fruited at all. Next to the orange we've got the banana plant. If you want to know how to propagate that, there's a video somewhere in on the channel for that one. Next to that guy we've got a mandarin tree with a few salvia in behind it. It's all a bit hacked up because we have to put a gate through there. Down here we've got a hibiscus. Down the front here there's some comfrey. My wife makes comfrey salve. This stuff here, cut and come again, living mulch, or cut and come again mulch, grows grows prolifically. The leaves die back really, really quickly. It's got a deep root system, so when you're cutting off leaves and putting them down, you're bringing up nutrients from below back to the surface. So pretty handy, this one here. Does spread quite easily, easy to take cuttings from, but you probably don't want it, probably don't want too much of it, or you want it in a confined space. Next to that, last and final one, we have a grapevine. So this guy here, it's had a reasonable life. The first couple of years of it, we got some really good vines out of it. But that was a dry spell, really good grapes out of it, sorry. But since then, we've had a fair bit of rain through summer, and grapes in subtropical conditions tend to get a lot of powdery mildew. So not ideal. But anyway, that is our garden tour for summer. Over the back is where the mulberries are. And I'll show you what it looks like in 6 months' time.